Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes. Now, before we finish up Big Brother season 25, put a wrap on it, put a bow on it, and call it good. I wanted to do one final episode looking at both finale episode and all the different components that went into a Big Brother season. Try to put some grades on all of them and just talk about what I enjoyed, maybe what I didn't enjoy as much about the season, and try to do a little bit of an end of season breakdown. Now, I think it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. There will be spoilers contained within this recap. So if you didn't watch a finale yet, you've got it recorded and you don't know who won, go check that out first. And then you can come back here because otherwise I'm going to spoil it for you. All right. You've been warned. Now let's talk first of all. Let me just say props and congratulations to Jag for taking home the victory. I wasn't sure if he's going to do it or not. Now I will say, I predicted that he would win. He was my pick at the very beginning of the season. But having said that, I also was not certain that he would be able to take the win away from Matt. Well, he did it. So props to Jag on that, and props to Cameron for taking home America's favorite player. He seemed very affected by it, very appreciative. And so we'll talk about that as well. So Jag and Cameron both winning this thing. Props to both of them. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the episode itself before we get into the actual grades. Been waiting all season long for this reveal of Cirie and Jared and their relationship. And the reveal was fun. I like seeing all the past house guests and how it was revealed. I'd forgotten how some of them responded. Watching everyone's reactions that hadn't heard the secret yet. It was good to enjoy. Matt being asked who he thought the relationship was and thinking it was America and Corey. Perhaps the line of the night. I was laughing. Maybe some people were upset. I think it was hilarious that he said that, and then saying, maybe I didn't think that all the way through. It had me laughing quite a bit. So that was a lot of fun. Bowie Jane revealing both her age and her profession was pretty funny, especially watching Felicia's reaction to it. What'd they say? She's a criminal prosecutor for fraud and counterfeiting or something. Well done, Bowie Jade. I got to say, after hearing all of that, I'm really curious to see what her final two speech would have been if she had made it to the end. Maybe Jag made the right decision on the way he did this thing. Obviously, he did. He won, but I was watching that. The only thing with all these reveals that were going on that I think could have made it just a little bit more fun, I sure wish Denzel Washington had been in the audience just to have him step up on the stage and say, "Howdy, sis." Well, maybe he wouldn't say howdy, but hey, sis, to Felicia would have been fantastic. She would have just fallen out of her chair, I do believe, and that would have been great. But it wasn't the case. She did reveal it. No, she's not related to Denzel. I kind of like the episode. Not kind of. I enjoyed the episode. I thought the speeches, the questions, the pace, everything went well. There were no proposals, which I was perfectly fine with. So I enjoyed the episode. All right, now let's talk about the season overall, breaking it into different components that make up a Big Brother season. And y'all know me, I try to be very positive when I give these morning recaps. This episode, I'm going to be brutally honest and really give you my personal opinion, good or bad, for all the different components of the season. And I would love to have y'all tell me what you think in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? What kind of grades do you give as we break this thing down? I really want to know how this season is going to be received tomorrow, but also, I don't know, a few years from now. How are we going to look back on this season? I've got my grades, so let's get right into it. We're going to start off with the cast. I'm going to give a grade of an A-. Now, I'm pretty up on the cast. I was when they revealed it, and I got to say, even now, I still am. I think casting did a fantastic job with the diversity of this cast, and not just from an ethnicity standpoint, but also from an age standpoint. I thought they had quite a spread in terms of ethnicity, age, but just also in terms of the characters they had. They had a lot of really unique individuals that I was very excited to see playing the game. So huge props to casting for the job they did this season. Now, with that being said, why an A- and not an A+? Because I wasn't a fan of having Cirie as an extra house guest, of her having a relative in the game in the form of Jared. And I wasn't real fond of the fact that she didn't show up at the same time as everyone else, that when they came back in after the first competition, she was there at that point, that she already was separated from everyone else. not just by her fame, but also just the fact that she didn't enter the same way everyone else did. So from a casting standpoint, she was fine in the house. I like all newbies coming in or all veterans to have just one person come in. Not my favorite thing. And that's why I knock it from an A+ to an A-. But that being said, I like the cast. I thought they did a fantastic job. All right, let's talk about the gameplay from that cast. Not quite as strong a score on the gameplay. I'm giving gameplay, I've got down a C-, a C or a C-. I'll stick with a C-. You can call it a strategy, and perhaps it was, but it just seems to me that the bulk of the season was played very defensively, in that they were taking out the player that seemed to be the biggest comp threat, as opposed to furthering their own goals. It was more just about taking out anyone who seemed to be doing better than other people. And I think that made for a little bit more boring gameplay as we got later into the season. I don't know how to grade the fact that you had 17 people and 300 different alliances. It seems like everyone in an alliance with everyone else. I'm amazed that these players didn't do more to check and to confirm and compare notes and realize how many people were double, triple, quadruple playing these alliances. So yeah, there's some things that I thought were a little bit lacking in terms of the gameplay. I was a little disappointed that we had a couple of players like Izzy or like Sari, who seemed very willing to give up their game as a sacrifice to someone else in the house. I want everyone playing hardcore from start to finish. So we had a couple doing that. Haisam basing his noms based on who was not gay, not a minority. Not quite the way I would have preferred noms to be done, but yeah, it is what it is. Everyone has different reasons for the way they do nominations. But perhaps my biggest dig in terms of gameplay from this whole season, we saw it on the episode tonight. Anyone who plays rock, paper, scissors to determine who wins an HOH is important as part one of the final HOH competition. No, I'm not for it. I don't care if you say it doesn't matter, because it did matter. I truly think if Matt had won this thing and taken Jag, I don't know, would it have made a difference? Maybe it wouldn't have, but I think who took who to the end was very, very important. And so, of course, even as I say that, Matt actually won that first competition, right? So Jag's the one who lost rock, paper, scissors. You don't play rock, paper, scissors in the game of Big Brother to find out who's going to win or not. So yeah, I was a little disappointed to see that. So overall gameplay, not horrible, but not the best I've ever seen. So I'm going to give it a solid C-. All right. The final two questions from jury. I'm giving Jag a B-. I'm giving Matt a C+. I'm going to bump him up a little bit. I originally had a C down. I do think Jag did a little bit better handling the questions that came from the jury itself. How does Jag, though, when they're asking him about being saved by Matt, how does Jag not turn around and say, well, Matt might have saved me in week number 4, but I saved Matt just 10 minutes ago when I chose to drag him to final 2 instead of Bowie James. So that right there, we're equal. So please do not be holding that against me. That would have been my first response to that question. I also feel like Jag was a little too non-specific in his answers, saying, well, I was controlling this, I was controlling that, without really saying what he was controlling it or how he was playing things. When you're not so specific in your answers, I think sometimes it makes it tougher to sway a jury. So I thought his answers were fine, but just not quite where they needed to be. Matt seemed very nervous giving his answers and would tail off. Started off strong on most of his questions, I think. I thought it was fine telling Felicia that, hey, I did lie to you. I was always loyal to Jag. I think people respect that you come clean with things like that. I think Matt's answers, for the most part, were strong to start with. And then he would just kind of lose his train of thought and kind of run out of things to say. And it kind of tailed off a little awkwardly. So I'm going to give Jag a little bit of an advantage on terms of answering the jury questions. In terms of the final 2 speeches, I think they both did so much better. I'm going to give Matt a B+. I'm going to give Jag an A-. Matt was definitely better with his speech than with his jury answers. I think Matt did a very good job of highlighting his social game, of everything he did in that house. that made people like him, that made people trust him. And we heard that throughout the season. Oh, Mike can do horrible things and we still trust him. And he highlighted that. He highlighted the fact that he had won when he needed to, that he had slacked off when he didn't because he knew he'd be considered a big threat. So I thought Matt did very well with that. Jag, I gotta say, I was a little bit worried when Jag started off when he finished up as well. I thought Jag was maybe going to come across a little bit antagonistic and dare I say a little bit cocky. I was afraid he was really going to turn off some of the voters saying, oh, your blood is on my hands. You're there because I chose to put you there. I could have just seen a juror or two saying, well, and now I choose not to give you $750,000. You see how that works out, Jag? I was worried about it, but obviously he knew his audience, his jury he was pitching to more than I did because it worked. But I do think that Jag, even being a little as forceful as he was, maybe came across just a little bit more clean in terms of owning what he did and taking control of it. They were both good speeches, though. I thought they were fine. All right, let's talk about the jury and how they did. We talked about a bitter jury. Were they going to just come in and just rake people over the coals because of the way they've been treated in the House and who voted out who? I'm going to give this jury an A. Yeah, I'm very pleased. I'm very happy with the way this jury responded. I was worried about them being a bitter jury, but I feel like everyone on that jury voted with respect for the game of Big Brother. Some of them gave more weight to the social game. Others gave more weight to the comp wins. But I'm not upset about the way a single person in that jury voted. We only had 2 votes cast for Matt from Felicia and Cirie. I was worried about Felicia being a huge bitter juror, but I truly think that they voted for Matt because of his social game and because they felt that connection with him and they felt like he had worked them so well. So props to the jury. I'm so pleasantly surprised that they voted the way they did. And I feel like everyone treated it with the respect and with the sincerity that you need to have when you're awarding someone $750,000. So a big old A to the jury. I may even give them an A+. They deserved it. All right. America's favorite player, B+. And it could easily be an A-, but I'm going to say a B+. Cameron, Cirie, and Matt making it to the top 3. Not a huge surprise based on what I see on social media, people I talk to and all that. Not really surprised to hear that at all. And I am absolutely fine with Cameron winning this thing, winning America's favorite player. I know he's a little controversial. Love him or hate him, it seems like for a lot of people. And there's people that were upset that it was Cameron and not Cirie, for example. But I am fine with Cameron winning this. He made big moves. He played independently. He sometimes marched to the beat of his own drummer, which was a little bit rare this season. So he made big moves. He played independently at times. He certainly made the season more interesting to watch. And I think he really was very appreciative of the honor of getting America's favorite player. So I'm okay with it. I absolutely am. So props to Cameron for that. Now, nothing against Cirie being in the top 3, but if it was just up to me, I might have placed Felicia ahead of Cirie. Cirie, I think, probably had a little bit better social game. Felicia's a little bit all over the place in terms of social game. So Cirie may be a little bit stronger with the social game. But my gosh, Felicia was just so much entertaining, so much fun to watch. She was so entertaining to watch, good or bad. The way she's just over there calling out Mr. B, and Felicia always captured the camera when she was in front of it, seems like. So I am knocking it from an A to a B+ strictly because Felicia didn't make the final 3, and I would have been okay with that as well. And then the final comment with America's favorite players, I really thought there was a possibility that America would make it into the final 3 as well. I know a lot of people were pushing for it. The fact that she was in a showmance with Corey, I do wonder, did Corey and America end up stealing votes from each other or splitting some votes from like-minded voters and maybe pull both of them out of the final 3 for America's favorite? Could be. But props to Cameron for winning this thing, and props to Matt and Cirie for finishing up in the top 3 as well. I don't have issues with any one of those picks. All right, let's talk about the twists that we had this season. And we had a few twists, didn't we? Mr. Positive here, gonna kind of throw this one out there. I'm gonna give this one a Oh, I hate to do it. I'll give it 2 thumbs down, a D plus in terms of the twist. First of all, I've already mentioned I'm not a fan of having a single returning or celebrity player playing with a lot of newbies. I'm not a fan of 2 house guests being related to each other or knowing each other. I already went through that during my season. I don't want any more of that. So I wasn't a fan of either one of those twists. The nether region, the nether zone or whatever, it just kind of disappeared, as sometimes twists do. I thought it was going to extend a lot more into the rest of the season, but we had it for just a couple of weeks, and then suddenly it was gone, never to be seen again. I feel like there could have been a little bit more done with that. I was not a huge fan of the idea that a player such as Jag could be voted out of the house and then go right back into the house without having to fight for it for some reason. I'm a huge fan of battle vacs, right? Yeah, I kind of appreciate battle vacs. I enjoy them. I love them. I'm glad they had one during my season, but I'm not as much of a fan of someone being able to come back into the house without having to prove they want to come back and doing something to fight their way back in. So I'm not a huge fan of the way that worked. For Zombie Week being promoted as being the scariest week ever, and we got zombies wandering around and all the scary stuff, it was a very plain, very boring week. There's so much more they could have done. Even Cameron and Jared as zombies, I would have made them do so much more. I would have made them walk around moaning or rattling chains or having to stay up in a cemetery and have not room. I would have done something a little bit different. As it turns out, they just didn't do a whole lot to promote Scary Week that particular week. Can I say how much I still, when it very first announced, and up until now, I still don't like that little shoe that kicks your rear end in the have not room that you had to turn the crank on. I guess it's not the end of the world. I had it there, but yeah, not my favorite. Not my favorite twist though. Was that a twist? Maybe. I don't. I didn't like the butt kicker up in the have not room. All right. I did like the invisible HOH power. We've seen that, I think, Big Brother Canada before. I thought it was a fantastic idea here. I so hope that Big Brother brings it back for a future season. I love the idea of someone having that kind of power without being known. And Jag told too many people it didn't matter. But here's the other thing I didn't particularly like about the way it was presented. I felt like it was presented too late in the season, so there weren't enough people left to properly be able to hide who actually had that power. If they bring back Invisible HOH, do it in the first part of the season when there's enough people that everyone's pointing fingers at everyone else and getting suspicious and paranoid and all of that. But I love that twist. I just would have done it just a little bit earlier. So with all of those combined, yeah, I'm giving it a D plus. I just not a fan of most of those twists this season. All right, let's talk about the competitions themselves. Competitions, I'm going to give it a very solid right in the middle C. What I did like about it, I did feel like towards the end, you had a little bit more focus on mental competitions, which I think should be the case. I get it. There's physical comps, and people should, if they're more physical, have an advantage with some of those. But as you get towards the end, I always like seeing that everyone has a possibility of winning some of those comps. And I feel like this season did a little bit better job of some other seasons. But my gripes against the comps this season, I feel like OTEV was made easier. The ramp wasn't nearly as steep. They didn't have to run nearly as far across the yard to get to all the different parts and all that. It seems like there were too many comps that were very similar. Look at the picture, identify what's different, or identify where on the page this is. Too many memory comps involving pictures and memory. It just seemed like we had a lot of those, one after another. I did not like the luxury comp, which involved putting candy in each other's buckets, and whoever had the most candy won $5,000. I feel like that was too easy for some people to help others win. I would have liked, when you're talking $5,000, everyone having an equal opportunity to win that thing and not just have it as a popularity type contest. I did like the return of the pressure cooker. I'm glad to see it. I hope it's not the last time we see it. A little disappointed that it was negated by then having the safety power being used. So Cameron's 14 hours out in the pressure cooker really didn't amount to anything. But other than that, I did like the pressure cooker. Now it's time to bring back some of the luxury comps and the food comps that we've had in the past, Big Brother. Bring those back as well. But yeah, Twist, our competitions, some I liked. A few of them not as much. So I'll give that a solid C. All right, Zingbot. Y'all know how I feel about Zingbot, right? I love the idea of Zingbot coming in and zinging people. Free the zing and all that. But I like Cerie Zingbot referencing her being on an island and not winning, just like on Survivor and all that. I thought that was fine and spot on. Jags talking about Boringi or whatever. Yeah, some of those, the way he played his game, I was fine with. I'm fine with those. But I give Zingbot a D because yet again, Zingbot had too many zings that were focused on body shaming, age and wrinkles, teeth, just some things. Do better, Zingbot. You don't, in this day and age, you don't need to be making fun of people's body characteristics, age, anything else. There's so many things this season that they could have zinged on. So yeah, a little disappointed in Zingbot, and I'll continue to stand on that soapbox every season and talk about that. That's my little pet peeve, I guess. All right, so with all that being said, am I sounding negative at the end? I hope not, because I enjoyed the season. I truly did. But I will point out a few things that I think I would have done differently if I had the choice. So let's talk about the overall grade for Big Brother Season 25. I'm going to give this, man, I've been waffling back and forth for the last hour or so while I put this list together, between a C+ and a B-. I think I'm going to go ahead and give it a B-. All right. But you could probably convince me C+, somewhere right there in that area. I'll put it somewhere in the middle in terms of all the seasons that have been played, 24 seasons. This is the 25th. So does that mean I'm placing it about number 12 or 13 on the rankings? Yeah, that seems about right. There were times where I was very invested in get the game results, who was going to win the competition, how the votes were going to go. The double eviction I thought was fantastic with the competition where they were putting two people up at a time, and some of those tiebreakers with Bowie Jane. There were a lot of times where I was on the edge of my seat waiting to see what happened. So certainly there was an entertainment factor that we haven't necessarily gotten in some seasons over the past few years, right? So I'm going to give it a high score based on the certainly keeping me entertained. But on the other hand, I've mentioned a few things, the comps and the gameplay and a little bit with that. And at the core of it, I just feel like sometimes this season just wasn't as much fun as some past seasons. Is this because it was a little bit longer and you just start getting a little exhausted at the end? Perhaps that's part of it. I also think that these players, sometimes it seems these house guests were so focused on playing the game that they weren't having fun in the house, that they would be up at 9 o'clock in the morning talking game, and they'd be up at 2 in the morning before they went to bed, still talking about game without anything other than game talk taking place in between those two. These house guests, hey, more power to them if they can stay that focused to play that game that hard. But I just don't sometimes think they were having as much fun enjoying the experience in that house as much as they should have. And it conveys to us as a viewer as well. So I enjoyed the competitions, most of them watching the outcomes, edge of my seat kind of stuff, but just the day-to-day in the house, the live feeds and all that, sometimes not as entertaining as times that we've had in the past. And also along with that, there just seemed to be some personal sniping that was taking place. That was a little bit too unnecessary, right? I mean, we get a little bit of that every season, but it just seems like it tended to grow at times. People, now let me put it this way. It certainly seems like the people who were HOH throughout this season, a whole lot of them got HOH-itis and got very power hungry, a little full of power sometimes at times. And again, that happens every season, but it just seems like we had a lot of it this season. So at the end of the day, as much as I enjoyed watching the entertaining and all that, sometimes it just didn't seem as much fun as others, which is why I place it right there in the middle of the season. I'm glad they had it. I'll finish up by again saying I love the cast who was picked. And it was a fun season. I'm happy with who won America's favorite player. I'm happy with who won the overall prize. It was a good season. So there you have it, guys. Big Brother season 25. We'll call it a wrap for now. I'm sure we'll still be talking about it on Cliff Notes Live coming up on Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. Bring your questions, all that. But let me know in the comments right here. How would you rank the season based on all of these variables I threw out there, or just one or two? Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm completely off the wall with it? I'm open to all criticism, suggestions, opinions as well. Guys, thank you for your support the entire season. I've enjoyed it. It's been a blast. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in every morning. It has been a lot of fun. Now I'm going to go take a nap. Guys, y'all have a great one until Big Brother Reindeer Games. And I don't know how we'll cover that. 6 episodes. We'll probably just cover it as part of our Monday night show, but we'll see. But guys, y'all have a great one. SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.